people, it's Traci Reed here today, coming at you with a super fun layout that I absolutely adore. You'll see that I'm starting with two mixed media pieces. One I actually did on Reels on my Instagram, the purple and orange one if you want to see it. The other one I was just kind of playing around with and decided that it would work for this page. But I will say that this purple and orange one especially is very bright, very loud, and so instead of using it as the background, which is not really the vibe that I'm going for, I'm going to be using it as a mat for these photos. So you can see that I'm scrapbooking about Taylor Swift's Folklore and Evermore albums, and I am not a Swiftie, not a big, actually I don't scrapbook music like ever. So the fact that I'm scrapbooking these means that they have a special little meaning to me, and that's kind of what I want to scrapbook and talk about on this page. So I have the cover and track listing for both albums that I'm going to be using as my photos for this page, but I definitely printed them too big for my Life Crafted album that I'm going to be using, so I end up resizing them to, I think these are about 3 inches each, so I think I resized them down to like 2.5, 2.25, somewhere around there, because these were just too big. But I am going to mat them on those pretty papers. So I'm going to add some more mixed media. So this is the same technique that I used to make those papers originally, but I want these just along the edge or the inside edges of my pages. And so I'm going to do one side black and one side purple and orange. I'm using Catherine Pooler inks for both. I'm using Sangria, and I don't remember what the other one was. It was a orangey coral color. Anyway, I've kind of put them down there on a stripe so that the purple is more on the outside edge and the orange is more on the inside edge, but it did all bleed together, and so it kind of made this really pretty purple orange vibe, but all one color basically. So I'm going to add some more purple to the inside edge. I'm also going to add some more black to the other side just to give it a couple layers of color. I am waiting in between each application of color so that they don't blend together again and make one big blob. So it takes a little patience to do some mixed media, but the end results of this page are just simply amazing. I love it so much, so it was absolutely worth it. So now that everything is dry, you can see that I did the purple and orange on the side with the black and white cover art, and the black inner edge is on this side with the color cover art. And then I designed some titles, Folklore and Evermore, in my Silhouette software. Actually, I did it in Illustrator and then moved it over to Silhouette. I will admit that I cut about 5 different versions of these words until I had something I liked. This definitely took the longest of everything just because I was so indecisive. And because it is vellum, I'm not going to be using a liquid or a tape adhesive, so I am going to instead staple these down with some decorative stapling, which is not something that I thought I'd ever say in my life, but that's what we're going for here. So I'm sort of creating X's with my staples so that they don't look like they're just there to hold down the words. They also look like they are making a little statement. So I'm going to tuck these photos on a diagonal, so you can see I'm sort of putting the pink ones there, and then I will move the black and white ones to the opposite corner on the opposite side. You can see that I printed my journaling directly onto my background paper and am working around that. There is symmetry in the entire spread that I'm doing in multiple ways. So there's symmetry in the way that I'm placing the photos, there's symmetry in the way that I did the centers of the pages, there's symmetry in the way that I did the journaling, and also the way that I offset the titles. Everything is sort of creating its own version of symmetrical balance, and I really feel like, I'm not sure that I did it on purpose because of this. I did create the symmetry on purpose, but I'm not sure that I created it because I feel like there's symmetry in the albums. Like maybe I did subconsciously, but there's definitely some symmetry in the albums and the way that they play off of each other that I think really works with this vibe. So I'm going to use the ink pads again in a water brush, and I'm going to splatter black on the side where I added the purple and orange color, and then you guessed it, I'm going to splatter purple and orange on the side where I added the black color again, creating some symmetry and balance on these pages. And I really feel like that really like completed this page, right? It just feels perfect. And you'll notice that on these pages there is absolutely no embellishment. There is only mixed media, words, and titles. So this is probably the first page that I've ever made that has not a single scrapbook embellishment on it, and I am super excited about that. I really wanted to commit to some mixed media and play around with some new techniques, and I love, love, love how it came out. You can definitely or you will definitely see some more mixed media from me in the future, probably, because I enjoyed this so much and I'm starting to become more confident with the process of creating with mixed media. I think it's less about confidence and more about just understanding that it's not going to be perfect and letting that go, the perfection part. Okay, so now everything is dry, and I really wanted to include lyrics from each song on the albums that spoke to me. So almost the entirety of all of the lyrics are specifically lyrics that really spoke to me. There's a couple of songs, especially on Evermore, that I don't really relate to, even though I do like them, like the one, No Body, No Crime, where she talks about killing her best friend's husband who killed her best friend. And yeah, no, I don't relate to any of that. So I just picked a random lyric from there that would be okay. But for the most part, all of these lyrics really mean something to me on these albums, so I wanted to include all of them. And I created these typography pages with intention, so they have design to them, and they're not just a printout of the lyrics. So I really wanted to include them, and my original thought was going to be that I was going to include them on vellum in the middle of the spread, but then I loved the spread so much that I didn't want to interfere with it by adding something in the middle. So instead I'm going to create a pocket out of each side of the spread, and I'm going to tuck these behind the pockets. I'm going to use this tab from my Cocoa Daisy collection just to create the tab on my pages so that there is something sticking out, so that you can see that there is something to pull out of the pockets. So a few tips about when you're creating pockets like this, or when you are adding interactive embellishments, you really need to make sure that the paper that you choose to sandwich in between your pockets, so these papers are a really strong cardstock, because they have to be able to withstand being pulled in and out of the album and not like wrinkle. So I did end up having to reprint these on a sturdier cardstock so that they would hold up a little bit better than they were when I was pulling them in and out on the cardstock that I printed them on. So I ended up printing them on cover stock instead, which is a really thick cardstock. So I'm using my red line tape, and I adhered it on 3 edges and not this big open edge, so that it would just adhere to the layout behind it and there would be a pocket created. The last thing I'm going to do is add these tabs to the edges. These are just, offcuts of the mixed media papers that I had laying around, and so I felt like adding them to the tab makes it a little bit more visible, and I didn't feel like adding a word to the tab. There's a lot of words already on this page, so I didn't feel like I needed to add pull or anything, so instead I'm going with these tabs that match the page. Alright, that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Traci M. Reed over there, and I would love to see you over there as well. And let me know in the comment section below if you ever do any mixed media in your pages. All right, bye.